This is the $450 USD Sabaj A30a integrated amp, and it almost gave me a heart attack. Why? Now, for those of you new to my channel, recently I brought a tube integrated amp to market called the Realism TS120, and it costs about 7 times more expensive than this Sabaj. Now, when you bring something to the market, you want to make sure your product is worth the asking price. The first moment I turned on this Sabaj, I was so impressed with its performance that for a moment there, I was worried if my amplifier, the Realism TS120 performance improvement, over the Sabaj is worth the price difference. Now, after all, technology keeps improving and these affordable amps are getting scary good. Now, fortunately, after further A/B testing, I have nothing to worry about. But I think the big takeaway here is it actually gave me a scare. Technology improves so fast that I think if high-end manufacturers don't pay attention, they might be facing what I call a Kodak moment in just a few years. Now, for those too young to know who Kodak is, they used to make the film used in film cameras. Now, sadly, with the advancement in technology and digital photography, that billion-dollar company got wiped out. Now, I would not be surprised in a few years with the advancement in technology, a $450 integrated amp can replace a $2,000 amp from today, just like a $1,000 DAC today can replace yesterday's $3,000 DAC. Now, I know a lot of audiophile laugh at a 450 all-in-one integrated amp, and I don't pretend that this Sabaj can compete with, let's say, my Macintosh, my MAC 6700 integrated amp. Well, if it did, I would need therapy. Today's video is not easy to make because I want to tell you how amazing this Sabaj is, but at the same time, I want to be realistic. It is so easily to overhype a product. How can I get you excited about this amp without calling it the best of the best? You know, today, unless something can perform 10 times its asking price, yeah, don't make me watch a video on it. 5 times only? Not even worth my time. But this is really too bad because this is a great amp. You see, the amp is great for the price. Now, I understand that people rather get something that is amazing regardless of price over something that is amazing for the price. How do I differentiate between the two? You see, the SMSL A1 amplifier is amazing regardless of the price. That is an amp that advertises itself as heavily biased into Class A. Sonically, it excels to the point it can compete with the big boys. And the negative with that amp has nothing to do with the sound. When the negative has nothing to do with the sound, then it is, for me, it is amazing regardless of the price. The main issue with the SMSL A1 is that it is only 15 watt, you need a preamp for it to sound its best, and finally the unit gets really hot, so we don't know the long-term reliability. So for that amp to shine, it needs to meet specific conditions. The Sabaj A30a, on the other hand, outputs 100 watt into 8 ohms. It can drive a bigger variety of speakers. It stays reasonably warm, and you don't need a preamp to use it. When I touch on its negative, it does have something to do with its sound, but all is forgiven because of the $450 price tag. So that is what I meant by it being excellent for its price. Now, don't assume the SMSL A1 is what you want just because I say it is amazing regardless of price. I would say this: get the SMSL A1 if you want a more refined, linear presentation. Get the Sabaj if you want a more fun and warmer presentation. People who love the Sabaj sound might not like the SMSL A1 because they might find it too lean. For example, right? It might be too lean for them. The Sabaj excels at a few things more than other amps in its class, and that is what got me sweating bullets the first time I heard it. So, my audio buddies, today let's talk about the Sabaj A30a. Now, before we start, this unit was sent to me by Hi-Fi Express. Although I don't have any affiliated programs with them, you will be supporting this channel indirectly by buying from them if you plan to get the Sabaj or the SMSL A1. So if this video was what made you open up your wallet, well, give them a chance. Yep, watching Thomas and stereo can be dangerous to your wallet. Now talking about that, I will also take another moment to mention my new merchandise store. Just in case you have the urge to spend 20 bucks on hi-fi gear, but because there is nothing for 20 bucks in hi-fi, you can settle for a hi-fi mug. I try to make them funny or at least audiophile relatable. So let's move on to the Sabaj. It is almost criminal the amount of features companies can pack into a tiny integrated amp today. It almost makes a lot of higher-end purist amplifiers look like a ripoff. Bluetooth with the latest codec? Check. 3 digital input including USB, so you can plug it to your computer? Check. And 1 analog input, so you can use an external DAC or phono stage for your turntable? Man, what else do you need more? A built-in coffee warmer? Well, it does get warm, but not enough to use as a coffee warmer. Now, in case you fell asleep at the beginning of this video and did not hear me mentioning it 4 times already, the unit is only 450 bucks on Hi-Fi Express. Heck, that's just a bit more expensive than me filling up my gas tank these days. Well, at least it feels like that. Apparently, it uses a digital amp instead of a Class D amp. Whenever I come across a digital amp, like the $3,000 Lindorf TDA 1120, which also uses a digital amp, magically they don't need a DAC. And why they don't need one is beyond me. I tried to read papers on it, but I'm too old for it, man. The truth is, I don't really care. All I care about is that it will save me money because I don't need to buy a DAC. Next, it supports DSD-512. Not that any one of us has DSD-512 files in North America. I guess it is more relevant in Asia because DSD files are more common over there, mostly SACD rips. The Sabaj also comes with tone control. I love tone control, and I think we should start a movement to bring back tone control. It has many sound profiles and DSP. It has a subwoofer out, and it outputs 200 watts into 4 ohms, which is quite impressive given its size. It does come with a decent remote because it has more than 3 buttons. Perhaps they're trying to adopt the Apple design philosophy, where less is more. There's only 1 knob in the front. If you think about it, it's pretty cool. You can turn on the unit, control the volume, and navigate the menu with just 1 knob. I guess they tried to make the design a bit more interesting by adding 2 handles in the front. It looks like a baby audio research amp. Now, Hi-Fi Express sent me this block diagram. I guess they were trying to show me how awesome this unit is, but between you and me, I got a headache trying to make sense of it. Now, I have no idea what I'm looking at, but for you geniuses out there, here is the diagram. If you can explain it to me in plain English, and also why it does not need a DAC, please put it in the comments. So, how does it sound? Just like other digital amps I have listened to, it does have a very similar sound profile to a Class D amp. There's a lot of clarity, but the top end compared to other Class D amps, surprisingly, has a bit of smoothness. Yet, you can still hear the saliva of the singer. Not that we need to hear that. The upper mid does have what I call a slight dip, like most Class D amp. I don't mean if you measure it, you'll have a dip in the frequency, but rather what I'm trying to say is that it does not have the same body as a Class AB amp. It is just a bit leaner. The lower mid has a bit of warmth because the strong bass actually bleeds into the lower mids. It does give a bit more warmth in the presentation when compared to more typical Class D amps. Now, the reason why it is fun to listen to is because of the slight V-curve. There's an emphasis on the bottom end and top end with decent clarity. It is unexpectedly dynamic and powerful with plenty of kick. Perhaps because of its stronger than expected bass, it does create a decent soundstage with depth and width. Now, although not as deep as I am used to, I can clearly hear the singer's position behind the speaker. In short, it does do a lot of audiophile things okay. So let's start with the negative. Everything negative I have to say about this amp It's not a negative because of its price. And as long as you understand, you're getting a fun amp. It is not about refinement. It is about dynamics. Now, I still have to point out a few negatives in case it is a deal breaker for you. First, just like all Class D amp I have listened to at this price range, it is a bit dry on the top end. Dry, the way I defined it, like a short reverberation time. Having said that, it's just a bit. Way better than many budget Class D amp I've tried. Next, the mid-range body is not as thick as Class AB amp, and I can hear a bit of digital glare. Now, before you hit the goodbye button, keep in mind, even higher end Class D amp has a bit of dryness. That is why I usually pair it with a tube preamp. So this is not a negative for this amp because it is inherent in many budget Class D amps. Next, the mid-range is not as thick. Well, this is just how Class D sounds, and for some people it is fantastic because some would argue it sounds more neutral. Once again, not really a negative if you factor in the topology. Finally, I hear a bit of digital glare. Now, all Class D amp in this price range, I hear digital glare. Now, what is very interesting is if you compare this to the Crown XLS2502 amp, although the Sabaj is less ballsy, it has less glare. Now, many of you love that Crown XLS2502, so this glare I'm talking about is not an issue for many of you. Once again, although it is not a problem because it is way more acceptable for the price. So in short, all the negatives I just mentioned might not be an issue for many of you. So why buy a Sabaj A30a? What did it do so well that it almost gave me a heart attack? For me, it was the dynamic contrast. It is snappy and it has good torque. Now, if you take my Macintosh 6700 amp, for example, it is my reference amp and it cost me an arm and a leg. But one of its problems is its dynamic contrast and torque is meh. It sounds flat if you A/B test it against the Galleon TS120, for example. But to call the Macintosh flat is of course ridiculous, but everything is relative. If you A/B a lot of amplifiers, you will notice that some amps feel like an ocean wave where you have a lot of peaks and valleys with great dynamic contrast, while some amps sound a bit flat. The A30a, when I compare it with the amplifiers in its class, it has good torques, starts and stops pretty fast, and nice dynamics. So you have this excitement from listening to it. Also, its bass is on the heavier side, and with the sound profile and tone control, man, you can really boost the bass. You see, I have this Lee Sung Platinum here in an open baffle. Now this driver is designed to be used in a box. So when you put it in an open baffle, it has zero bass, man. So with the Sabaj, I would use the tone control to max out the bass and choose a heavily bass sound profile. Now, although it is still not enough because you really have to put those drivers in the box, with the Sabaj, with tone control maxed out, I still hear no distortion and it does increase the bass. And that was surprising. The max out tone control and no distortion with these single driver speakers is impressive. I was able to hear a lot of texture in the bass. It is not a one-note bass. So now I did not try that with the normal speakers to max out the bass with tone control because you really don't need it. Next, if you find the right speaker for it, the mid-range sounds really good. For example, with the synthesis speaker that has a soft thumb tweeter, the voice was beautiful. With the SMSL Tabebuia speakers, excellent match for the desk. For some of you, just buy the SML speaker with the Sabaj and you are done. I did try with a few speakers. Some worked well, but some were meh. This amp is like a picky eater. It needs the right match to really shine. Pair this with a pair of Harbeth M30 and it sounds meh. Pair it with the Silverline Sonata and it will sound wow. Pair it with the Buchardt S400, not my first choice. Finally, I know everything goes through the ADC, and some would tell me even if I use an external DAC, I won't hear a difference, but I do. And when I plug it to my Moon DAC, I've noticed that the singer is less forward and there's less digital glare and it's less dry. So should you go out and buy an external DAC for this amp? Yeah, there's a difference, but maybe only 10%. The onboard ADC has a lot of clarity. You'll hear the singer's saliva with no problem. Well, some of you might wonder, okay, Thomas, but can I hear the vibration of the throat of the singer? Okay, guys, relax, okay? It's already fantastic that you can hear the saliva of the singer. Now, as I mentioned before, there are many different sound profiles. I noticed when I put it to vocal profile, the singer in the middle is more separated. Oh, pretty cool. But the downside is that there's a bit more hard edges. So there are pros and cons with the sound profile, but they do make a difference. I think they have like 20 sound profiles to play with. So please put in the comments, what do you think of today's entry-level integrated amps? Have they impressed you? Do you think in a few years, the performance improvement will be so big that there is no point in buying high-end audio anymore? So let's wrap it up at this point. At $450, you have Bluetooth, 3 digital inputs, 1 analog input, 1 subwoofer out, multiple sound profiles, tone control, and 200 watts of power in 4 ohm is quite an accomplishment. And it sounds great. Every audio buddy of mine who first heard it have a similar shock reaction. Mostly they were surprised by its dynamic contrast and bass. Look at the amp. It is the size of a small chocolate box, and yet it's able to punch you in the face. No need for amps the size of a microwave or the weight of a mini fridge. In a few years, all this will fit in the palm of your hand. If you're looking for a neutral amp, okay, perhaps this is not for you. But if you're looking for an amp that is fun to listen to at the price of maybe a fancy cable, this should definitely be on your list. All right, guys, see you next week.